Communication is critical in software engineering, and it comes up in so many different facets of the job. Whether that's working with customers, your own teammates, or even other teams or stakeholders, you need to be able to communicate effectively. Hi, my name's Nick Cosentino, and I'm a Principal Software Engineering Manager at Microsoft. In this video, I was joined by Bhavana Hindupur, and we got to talk about her journey as a software engineer, whether that was at big financial institutions or big tech companies, now at Microsoft, and how communication really affected her role. In this interview, Bhavana talked about how at Amazon it was really encouraged for the engineers to be interacting and working with the customers. She also shared some of her struggles with how she was kind of stuck around that mid-level and was able to push forward towards principal. As with all of these interviews, there's so much valuable information to be able to extract, so I highly encourage you to sit back, enjoy, and try to take in everything that you can. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Thanks, and I'll see you next time. How much time was spent at financial institutions versus kind of like moving on to like big tech companies?
I think it's almost equal at this point.
Okay.
The first about 6 or 7 years was at financial institutions, and about the same time, 7 years-ish at big tech.
Cool. And I'm assuming that no regrets moving into big tech from the big financial institutions, or are there things you miss about it?
I actually that's a really good question. I haven't really thought about it like that. I don't think there's anything I miss at big tech that I had at financial institutions, but at the same time, I wouldn't say that it was all bad at
Sure.
the banks. I did some really cool stuff, met some really smart people. I definitely enjoy owning technology and owning the product end to end a bit more. So maybe I feel like if you ask me now, I feel like I'm suited to big tech a bit more. But I think I don't regret, maybe on the flip side, I don't regret spending the first few years of my career at financial
that's
institutions.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I think to your point too, like probably based on some of the projects or the exposure that you had at those previous companies, it sounds like you did not have the feeling of, and I'm generalizing a little bit, but not as much feeling of ownership over the products that you were working on, maybe?
Yeah, I think there's a regulatory requirement at every bank, every investment bank at least, that developers aren't allowed to tinker with production. So I think that's a legal requirement, because production has actual effects on the financial functioning of the banks. So what that translates to in your day-to-day work as an engineer at banks is that when there are production issues, you get on calls with, at least back then, you get on calls with these operational support people, and then you're giving them instructions, type this command, press this button, etc., etc. And that wasn't as fun as just owning everything yourself. And that is the first part. The second part is that when you're building products at big tech, I found that engineers have more autonomy on what business problems to solve, whereas at banks, that bit came from the business. So we had autonomy over how we would solve the problems, but not the what. I built a lot more business knowledge and the whole what problems do we solve from my time at big tech.
That's very interesting. And I should ask this too, because I was talking with Jade Wilson recently, because she's at Microsoft, and we have very different like experiences in terms of the product spaces we're in. So in big tech, have you done more like user facing products and services, or more like platform kind of technology?
Actually, at both Amazon and Google, I think I was working on user-facing products and services. Yeah. At Amazon, it was more like the other users, not the people who are buying. I was working for the Amazon retail business rather than AWS. So the people who are selling, I was helping build products for the people for the selling partners of Amazon.
Got it. Okay, interesting.
At
sorry,
Google,
go ahead.
I was, no, it's okay. At Google, I was working in the cloud space, in the compute team. at Microsoft, which I'm very new to, I'm actually working in the same exact space that Jade Wilson was working in. It's a really
Oh,
small
cool.
world. Yeah. So whatever she said applies to me as well.
Awesome. No, that's very cool. Well, no, that's actually really good background. So, the reason I wanted to inquire about that was because you had mentioned that you feel like not only like autonomy on the like on different aspects as an engineer, right? So I was thinking that like for me, I've been working at Microsoft for just under 4 years now, but on platform teams. And
Right.
as a result of that, it feels like they're almost exclusively like engineering driven, right? We are doing engineering work to help the other engineers do their engineering work. And
Yes.
it's like we do have like PMs and stuff that obviously contribute a great deal, but it seems like the one team I had prior, it was like in the beginning, especially, it was almost all engineering. Like PMs were, and I don't want to say this to like trivialize the role because it was certainly impactful, but they would help a lot with coordinating. And on the second team I'm on, the PMs are a lot more, collaborating with engineers on what we're going to build. So like the product ownership side feels kind of shared, but I was curious, like if you are doing more, user facing stuff, how much more kind of say you have as an engineer, or if that kind of gets taken away from, say, more product style roles that do more interfacing with customers. But
Yeah. That's interesting. I think every team I've worked in so far in every company has had some kind of a product manager.
right,
I don't think I've ever really worked directly with customers. That said, the role that I'm in right now at Microsoft has that potential. I just haven't been through a real customer engagement yet.
got it,
So we will be working with customers directly. But I think every company has various degrees of how much they want engineers to get involved
right,
with users directly. I
right,
think the most I was involved with customers was at Amazon. When they say they're customer obsessed, they want everybody to be customer obsessed. And I really enjoyed that because even though we had a product manager, and really good product manager at that, every engineer, especially the ones who want to be senior or the ones that are already at a senior level, are expected to question every decision that was made, come up with business problems that they want to solve, um, go talk to users if you want. Like, you're not supposed to go through the product manager. It's just that the product manager just specializes in that role and is the
right,
expert in that role. And I think that every engineer absolutely needs to build that muscle of being able to
right.
speak with customers directly and finding out what their problems are. That's a very, very important skill to have because tech skills, they take you up to a certain point, but beyond that, if you want to become the type of engineer with an impact that spans multiple teams and organization, if you want to become a CTO someday, etc., you really need to understand the business. And if your company doesn't give you the opportunity to do that, then they're really restricting your role.
Interesting. And I mean, this is a great segue, right? Because we were chatting before about like soft skills versus technical skills. And I think you really started to introduce it perfectly. Like, obviously, as software engineers, like technical skills are important. I don't think that anyone looks at software engineering and says, oh, you don't really need to be technical.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you do. But I almost feel like there's an overemphasis on like I'm only going to focus on technical skills, become an expert in some technology, some space. And I think to your point, like you were getting to this point where in your career, if you're like, hey, like I only have technical skills, how do you kind of break through? So maybe a question for you, like given this Amazon experience where you're saying engineers kind of were able to maybe perhaps encouraged to interact with customers,
Mhm.
what did that look like in terms of skill sets? Like did you see people struggling to do that because they hadn't been exposed to it, or like how did they get to be comfortable doing that?
I think that when we speak about soft skills for engineers, just like tech skills, there's a wide range of soft skills.
Right.
And as engineers, you don't have to be experts in every single one of them.
Sure.
You could build some like the T-shaped engineer for tech skills. I think it makes sense to think of your soft skills also as a T.
Okay. Yeah.
Some engineers might be really good at speaking with customers just by what their personality type is.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
some might, and I absolutely believe that you can learn soft skills like you can learn tech skills. And a lot of my soft skills I learned by observing some senior
Mm.
engineers that I admired. Some soft skills I was born with, like conflict resolution, running meetings, and then just if I see that there's a disagreement, just moderating that, trying to make sense of what everyone is saying, and then bringing the team to a conclusion, etc. That stuff I'm really strong at, and I didn't have to learn it, but I see that some people do have to learn that.
That's interesting.
There's yeah, there's also being able to lead a team. So you need confidence, you need assertiveness. That I was lacking, that I had to learn as well. And
Mm.
that part was the toughest for me to learn. So going back to your question about how did people find interacting with customers, I don't think that every engineer learned that really well. Some
Okay.
people were already good at it. Some people were maybe shadowing calls with customers with a product manager, and they had the opportunity to kind of build those skills. Some people said, I'm not that interested in it, but because they were at Amazon, they had to do a little bit of that, be involved in that a little bit, and then they improve that just by a tiny bit. It depends on what they wanted to do with their soft skills. But yeah, we didn't, I don't think that any senior engineer gets to say that I'm only going to focus on tech skills. I'm not going to focus on anything else. You don't get very far with that.
That's really really interesting too, that like um like people having this opportunity at least, right? So
Yeah.
I want to go back to this, but you were kind of saying we can think about soft skills like a T-shaped developer on the tech side, right? So when we were just chatting through this, we're really talking about soft skills for interacting with customers, right? And
Yeah.
your introduction even about your own skills was, say conflict resolution and stuff. These are also different sets of skills, but something that I find interesting is that at least in the case that you're describing, Amazon gave the opportunity to engineers. Like
Yeah.
without the opportunity to be able to practice that would be extremely difficult. Um, I think back to some of my experiences, like I was at startups before Microsoft, not my own, but
Hmm.
um, that felt like there was a lot more opportunity to be closer with customers. It doesn't
Right.
mean that every day we were chatting with customers, but the proximity felt so much closer. So almost as a result, you felt more connected to the customer. I could, I mean, I got to talk to customers in some situations, but I could almost imagine like if they brought in a customer that I would know how to have a conversation by virtue of proximity. So that's cool that that opportunity was there. Do you have a feel for, I don't know, I'm assuming you don't have like statistics on it, but do you have a feel for like if it was a majority of people that really liked leaning into that, or was it more the opposite where people were like, this is kind of not like, I'm a little uncomfortable, I don't want to?
That's an interesting question. Um, I, I think again going back to what I said before, there was a varying degree of interest in these types of activities. There were definitely people who hated. We hear engineers say this all the time that they just hate meetings in general.
Right. Yeah.
I don't hate meetings in general. I hate meetings that are wasteful. I
Right.
also hate technical work that's wasteful. But there are people who just hate meetings in general and they just want to write code or they just want to maybe architect a system. Um, so so similarly, there were people who hated maybe customer interactions or anything that took them away from technology. But again, it depends on the culture about
Sure.
if you know that you're not gonna get rewarded well if you're not getting involved with customers and at least understanding what they want and building, questioning decisions, etc. Showing that kind of skill. If you're not getting rewarded for behavior like that, it gets corrected very easily. Actually, I also want to address a point that you mentioned before about startups. I've only ever worked for large corporates. That's my entire range. I know that I'm missing that startup experience. So what I'm saying about Amazon and having the opportunity to speak with customers, take it with a pinch of salt because it's all relative.
Sure.
Maybe when I ever, in the future, if I ever join a startup, I'm gonna be like, okay, I had nothing at Amazon. This is where the real customer interaction is.
No, it's I think that's a very valid point, especially for viewers, right? Like I think I try to, as much as possible, like recognize bias and stuff like that, because we're talking about experiences, and we have to acknowledge that, like, just because we have an experience, it doesn't mean it's a universal fact kind of thing. So thank you for bringing that up. And yeah, like, and I guess in addition to that, right, like my experience at startups compared to big tech, like I don't have any customer interactions in big tech. I've in the past 4 years, the closest thing to a customer interaction is kind of like supporting other internal teams. And yes, one could argue like they are your direct customers, and I get it. Like I've worked I've worked in situations like serving the customers, so I can recognize that. But there is a big difference, because when they are internal like that, I think that you're afforded a lot more opportunities, because
Yeah.
I don't know, just by proximity, you're working in similar tech stacks. Like, I don't know, it just feels like it's almost like a bit of a cheat code to say like, oh, like they're the customer. It's like, yeah, but like, you have the same like VP or something, right? Like it's not really quite the same. So anyway, I thank you for sharing that bit, because I think that's important to recognize. Um, I wanted to touch a little bit more on like some of the other soft skills, right? So we're kind of been chatting about like the customer interaction side, which, by the way, I think is like a tremendously valuable thing that even when I talk about soft skills, I don't even talk about this part, and I probably should more often. Uh, you mentioned business value and things like that. I think that that's one of the best ways that you can start to try and connect those dots. But what other like what other soft skills, like if we're kind of taking a step back from interacting with customers, if we're thinking about, say, engineers that are watching this and they're trying to get a little bit further in their career, maybe they're closer to like the junior, working towards senior. From your perspective, what types of like soft skills have you seen really kind of shine and make people stand out?
So I think that there are two types of, well, this is a bit reductionist, but
Sure.
let's say, just for the sake of condensing this into a short answer, there are two types of personalities that I see in tech, that based on my experience. One side, which was me, I grew up in a culture where hierarchy was really respected, and then age is really important, designation, seniority, etc. is really important. And I had to really learn the skills to, at Amazon, we called it have backbone. So it means, it means what it says. It means that you need to be okay with disagreeing with anyone in the room, even if that is your director, your VP, whoever, definitely your peers and your manager. I had to really build that skill. So for me, it was very, very hard to say no, or I don't agree with that, to someone who was senior to me, or someone even like older to me in age. And then there's also the complexity of like gender and race, etc., etc. So all of those things kind of made it very hard for me to say no, or just bring in a different point of view. So disagreeing when it matters, and then being assertive when it matters as well. So you cannot be seen as a leader. Say you're leading a project, and if if there are sometimes you have to put your foot down and say, no, this is the right direction, we need to take this project in, or this is too much analysis, let's just, you know, bias for action, and let's just get this thing done. Or the other way around, maybe we're hurrying and we need to take a step back and think. So these are all things that you need a level of assertiveness to say and to enforce. And that was something that I really needed to learn to be seen as a leader. So I had the skills to kind of find the data and scope out the right solution, and then if you gave me a team of, I don't know, yes men that I could just, you know, tell them something and they'll just do it, maybe I'd have multiple successful projects, but that's not the reality. People come and they have very different personalities, and you need to be a strong leader. You need to be able to bring everyone in the same direction and get some work done. So that is something that is one aspect. So that is one extreme, right? And on the other extreme, we have a different type of personality where they're very comfortable expressing themselves. So that problem is solved for them. But the place that they struggle is to put their ideas across in a calm, in a respectful manner, so that, you know, you don't want to put people off when you're trying to lead a team, because you want to bring everybody in, and bring them on the journey together, because you want everybody to be working in the same direction. So if you have some ideas and you think that your way is a little bit better than what someone else is suggesting, the worst thing you can do is say, oh, your suggestion is complete nonsense. Because that you're not going to win their trust that way. So being able to communicate those things respectfully, being able to actually focus on the data. And then we also have people who are so attached to their work or so attached to certain technologies that they aren't able, or their decisions or their ideas, that they aren't able to kind of listen to the other side and then be comfortable and say, okay, I made a mistake, I think you're right, let's go with your decision, and then stick with that decision once they commit to it. So these are the two, I think, extremes that we need to kind of bring to the middle, and make a place where everybody is bold enough to disagree with each other, but then also we do it in a respectful manner. I think that is the essence of the other side of soft skills, apart from, you know, customer empathy. There's also empathy for each other.
Well, no, it's very interesting. The second set of individuals you described, I mean, at even the extreme of that side, I think that's probably what we would classify. There's different terms for this, but like intelligent jerks, right? Like there's other more colorful words that we can use for individuals like that, but they can, like those types of individuals can completely bring down teams. They can be extremely toxic. And when you have more junior people that are seeing this kind of behavior, they can feel like they're completely shut down. They don't have opportunities for growth. We talk about building, you know, safe environments for people to, you know, to fail, and it's okay. And now these people are like afraid to have ideas, afraid to take any risks, and it's like just the growth opportunities so confined. So I just wanted to mention that about like the intelligent jerks on that one side. But something you said that I thought was really interesting, and I hadn't thought about this before, and this is going to be from, you know, my own sort of cultural bias and upbringing, but I hadn't thought about the fact, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it sounded like you were saying, like, from your own culture, from your own background and upbringing, that some of these factors were like you found them very limiting because with respect to your own culture, it's very different, like what you would expect in the workplace. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. I remember the first time I visited the US. This was when I was with Goldman Sachs, and I had the opportunity to visit my team in New York, and we had a meeting with a boss's boss. So naturally, I was really quiet because this was my boss's boss.
Right. Yeah.
And I was a junior engineer. And there was another engineer in the room who was actually an intern, I think, at that time. And she was so confident and she asked so many questions. She disagreed with our boss's boss. And I thought she was amazing. I thought, oh my God, this girl has so much confidence. But then also I thought, well, she didn't get in trouble. Our boss's boss wasn't like, he wasn't angry. He didn't even seem upset. He was really happy that she raised all these questions. And that got me thinking that I really need to build these skills. But that was just, the beginning of having that idea. There's a very big gap between knowing that behavior is correct versus actually being comfortable displaying those behaviors.
Right. Well, no, that's like I just, I thank you so much for sharing that, because that's perspective like I would not have ever got on my own unless I had heard, others talking about that. So hopefully for, for viewers, right? Like I'm sure there's many people that are in a similar situation, because whether it's, same cultural background, or they have a different cultural background, but there's different characteristics where they're seeing the workplace not line up with, like, hey, like that's really maybe not how I was raised or how we do things in my country or whatever it happens to be. And being able to recognize those things and go, okay, well, do I have to shift my paradigm a little bit? Because that's not an easy thing to do. That's yet one more barrier to trying to make progress in your career. So very, very interesting.
Yeah. Another thing that I'd like to mention is that there is a very severe lack of role models um, in some demographics. I really struggle to find mentors who are senior IC women,
Hmm.
um, and it's really hard to find them, and even harder to find senior IC women of color. So that is definitely one factor that kind of slowed my growth, I think, because I couldn't really put my finger on what I was missing. The people
Right.
that I was talking to, the mentors that I did have, were extremely helpful, but they couldn't figure out this problem either, because they didn't know that someone could be thinking this way, or someone
Right.
could be so uncomfortable with doing something so simple. Like, I disagree with someone in the room, what's the worst that's going to happen? But I was so scared of doing it.
Yeah, it's like, it's how do you as someone who's mentoring and trying to help and provide guidance, how do you offer such guidance if you're not aware of such a challenge, right? Like how would you know to how to navigate
Yeah.
it? So yeah, that's really fascinating. So I mean, like I said, thank you for sharing that. I'm also curious. So we talked about this a little bit before as well. We've been kind of going through some different soft skill patterns, but you were also talking about kind of in your career, kind of reaching a point where you, I don't know if you'd call it mid to senior, but like getting beyond
Yeah.
that, right? Which is like an interesting, I don't know the background, but like how long of a plateau that felt like. And do you think that that's related to some of these things? Like, or did you overcome some of these soft skills that we were just going through? Did you overcome that to get to sort of that first plateau? I'm just kind of curious to see how your career broke through that.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of missing soft skills and tech skills, which is the case with almost everyone, right? You need to build both to be able to get to the next level. So one of the things that caused the big plateau was I made a lateral move when I went
Okay.
from JP Morgan to Amazon, and it was definitely uh, a the right decision for me, because I built so many skills that I wouldn't have otherwise built. The scale that I had at Amazon, I don't think I'm gonna be able to have that sort of experience anywhere else. But in terms of, I was just it looked like I would had I stayed back, I could have gotten promoted in the previous place. So I just wanted uh, your viewers to consider and understand and be really careful while thinking about a lateral move, and always think about what is it going to give you, because it could really set you back quite a few years in terms of getting recognized at that next level.
Right.
I landed at Amazon and I saw that the caliber was, I was here and the caliber of everyone was about here, in terms of tech skills. So it took me a little while to build those skills, right? But often building tech skills is just, oh, you just work on these projects, which Amazon had many, and then you read books or whatever your preferred way of learning new tech skills is. For me, it's always been reading books. So you read these books, you apply these skills through these projects, you build that tech abilities, and then came the soft skills, right? I think the thing that held me back for a really, really, really long time was being seen as a leader. I really couldn't demonstrate that. And then there's so many things you need to navigate to get a promotion. And also I never really thought about getting a promotion as something that you need to own and champion yourself. I
Right.
just
Yeah.
thought, I think this is also a cultural thing. I don't know, but um, when you're in school, you do your job correctly. You study, you listen in class, you do all your assignments, you do your exams, etc. Everybody is asked to do all these things explicitly, and you do these things well, and you get your reward at the end of the year. You get your grades, and um, back in India, you also are ranked, and I used to love that. I know it's not the best, but I used to really enjoy that. Anyway, so back to like the whole promotion situation. I thought that if I did an amazing job, everything would just come to me.
Right.
But that did not happen. So it was also promotion processes. I don't know how I feel about them, in the corporate world. They're so complicated, and I don't think I agree with how much difference there is between getting promoted internally and then getting hired at the next level in a new company. So it's like years
That
of
drives me
work,
nuts. Yeah.
right? So there's years of work, and then you need to you need like X, Y, and Z to kind of sign off on your promotion, versus when you're interviewing, it's one day of effort. Fine, you need to prepare and stuff, but still, you're only demonstrating your skills for a few hours, and then they make a decision. Anyway, so um, just wrapping my head around that process, and then just really putting myself out there, and then advocating for myself, etc. That all of these things really contributed to um, moving from mid-level to senior.
That's very interesting, right? And you talked about the leadership part, but you mentioned that a little bit earlier, right? About having to like assertiveness and being able to say like, you know, we're going to take a bias for a particular, whether it's action or even, we're maybe moving too fast. I've actually, like in the past couple of weeks, I've had multiple things like this come up where, and
Mm.
I'm relatively new to my team, so a few months in on this team, and I'm finding myself in situations where I'm like, look, I have to make a decision here. So I need to be able to, as a manager, relay to my team like this is the business requirement. Like we have technical challenges. There's a million different ways we could solve this, but like if we have a business requirement, what is it? Short term, medium term, long term? Can we do things in a way that unblock us now? They're not like, tons and tons of rework for later. Like what's the right balance? And um it's great because the conversations with the engineers, there's so many ideas coming up, and I want that to happen. I have lots of new people on my team. I want them to speak up, and it's great because they are. I'm finding that's a rare thing
Good.
now, but they are speaking up. And then with all of these ideas, now I kind of have a bit of the responsibility along with the tech leads to be able to say, cool, let's kind of bring this back in and kind of get some focus so we can start taking some action. So I've absolutely had that come up recently where I've had to be a little bit assertive, and it's not I'm not totally comfortable with it because it feels like I don't want to dismiss people. So if people are still like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I have more ideas." I'm like, "That's great. Like please share them, but I need you to also know that like there's a business. Like we have to keep moving. So yeah,
Yeah.
it feels awkward, but have to kind of do it. Um, the other, I'm losing my train of thought, but I wanted to come back to this other part that you mentioned. Oh, about you had said, I think the curiosity was around, is it a cultural thing for kind
Mm.
of pushing for your own career progression? And so what you've stated, I've observed a ton for other engineers, like trying to move forward in the career. I think you explained it so well that like going through school and stuff, it's kind of like, here's all the stuff you have to go do. It's handed to you. And as long as you go do it, you will get the rewards for it. It's just not how it works in a corporate environment. I don't I don't know if it's cultural, and I say that only because I've seen a wide variety. Maybe there is
Yeah.
a cultural undertone that I haven't picked up on, but I've seen it across so many different engineers, and it's quite rare, especially for more junior folks, where they come on and they're like, "I'm very motivated about career progression. Tell me like what do I got to do?" Like
Yeah.
they're very driven. They just don't know the steps to take. So it's definitely interesting. So it's very cool to hear that you identified this for yourself and you were able to start kind of pushing on some action. Maybe a final question for you on that is like, what do you recall what that process was like when you're like starting to realize it? Did you have steps that you took where you were like, you had an aha moment and you're like, okay, I have to start doing certain things to kind of uh, more formally push your career progression? Like, was it more conversations or I don't know, bringing visibility in certain ways?
It was almost everything. I was really desperate. Um, I don't know if you know this little tale about a frog that was stuck in a jar of milk, and
No,
I
no,
think
I've
it
not
was
heard
two
this.
frogs. Okay, there was two frogs, and they were stuck in a jar of milk, and there was one frog, and that said that we're doomed. There's no way we're getting out. That there's no way we can get out of this jar. And the other frog was like, I don't care. I'm gonna keep trying. And it keeps like moving its legs, and it tries to kind of get out, swim to the top. It couldn't swim to the top on its own, but because it kept moving, it caused it churned the milk, and it turned the
Okay.
milk to kind of semi-solid, and then it kind of had some support to kind of get out of the jar. I think I was that second frog, and I tried everything. I was so frustrated. I'd speak to my mentors, I'd speak to my sister, I'd speak to my husband about this stuff. Everybody had different types of advice, and when I spoke to so many people, I then started forming patterns of, okay, maybe this is what I was missing. And after a failed promotion attempt, I'd then go to my mentor and say, this is this is completely unacceptable. Why did this happen to me? And so unfair and stuff. And my mentor was like, did you know this process beforehand? Like I sent you this link like maybe last year about this. This was the promotion process. You knew that you needed X, Y, and Z. And I was like, nope, I didn't read that link. And then some of that, it was a lot of different things that happened. And then I followed people on LinkedIn. I followed advice. I read a lot of books, actually. I read a lot of books that um, actually that ranged from changing my personality to like I think let me mention some favorite ones. I think
Sure,
The
yeah.
Disease to Please uh, helped me. Then Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office helped me. Such a corny name, but it's a really good book. And then loads of technical books as well to build the tech skills. So I've read a lot of books. So I did so many different things, and then finally I was able to find like the solution to the puzzle.
It's interesting. Like, I mean, probably one of the big, takeaways from just that part alone was this bias for action, right? So you had a
Yeah,
realization where you were like, okay, something has to change. Like
yeah,
things, if I keep doing what I'm doing, like it seems like there is at least I don't want to say no progress. That's not fair at all to say, but it's not the progress you want to see. So
Yeah.
you either keep doing the same things and keep kind of feeling disappointed by it, or find something that works. And it sounds like you kind of went really hard into like, I need to find the thing that works. So I'm going to try as many different things as I can to try getting, something that's going to kind of latch on and work. So I think that's awesome. I, it's always difficult having conversations with people about like, what's the best way to kind of work forward and get promotions. Everyone has different opinions on this on the internet. Obviously, you kind of said experiences with all the information collecting you were doing. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of it comes down to like everyone has different personalities. Your situation with your own manager or the company you're at, like all of these can look very different. So there's no cookie cutter, like just follow these three simple steps and it works. But the, the main point there is you're in the driver's seat. You need to be the one trying to drive the progress in your career, not just kind of waiting for it to be handed to you. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and everybody's starting point is different as well. So that's why there
yeah.
cannot be a cookie cutter solution.
Yeah, and it's like I mean, I feel like it's a human thing. I don't know if I'm allowed to just kind of generalize that way, but I think we're all kind of looking for shortcuts, right? We want
Yeah.
shortcuts, and um, no, like, every time this kind of comes up in different aspects of my life when I'm talking about people want shortcuts, the the ultimate shortcut ends up being like accepting there just aren't universal shortcuts. Like
Yeah.
that's the shortcut. Understand that sooner, and you can start making progress.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that.
So no, that's very cool. I wanted to say like so not only was that a really big takeaway for me was like that kind of your experience is certainly aligned with I got a bias for action about my career progression, but I want to go back to just briefly to say like something you mentioned earlier about like cultural backgrounds can absolutely have a big influence in how you're navigating things. I don't know for other viewers, I hope that resonates with them. And I wanted to say like as an engineering manager, that's absolutely something I want to take more to heart and try to make sure
Mm.
I'm paying more attention to. So thank you for sharing that with me. Um, I wanted to close off by making sure that if you had an opportunity to share socials and stuff, of course I'll follow up with you offline to make sure I can get the links and stuff proper. But if people want to find you and connect with you and engage with you, what's the best way to do that?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Just follow me on LinkedIn. Send me messages. Uh, I might not be able to connect with you immediately, but I will get to you. And I also write on Substack, so
Nice.
you will find the link in my LinkedIn bio as well.
Perfect. Okay. Well, like I said, I'll get both of those from you. I'll put them in the comments and the description of this. So, I just wanted to say thank you so much. Like, I love conversations like this. I got to learn a lot, and I hope that means viewers got to learn a lot too.
I really enjoyed it as well. Thank you for the opportunity, Nick.
Cool, of course. Well, thanks again, and yeah, for folks that are watching, make sure you check out the links, and yeah, lots more to learn. So, thanks, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.